Welcome to Computer Organization Lecture Series, subject code 18CS34. We'll start a module number 2 and lecture number 9. Right? In previous class, we have studied the module 1. Module 1. In that, we have covered the basic information about a computer, then how the computer communicate with the other devices, other input-output devices. Right? So with that we have covered again the instructions, the addressing modes, and along with these instructions there are some additional instructions. The additional instructions which help us to do the arithmetic operation faster. So some of the additional instructions are a logical instruction. The logical instruction which help us to do arithmetic execution, operation execution faster. The logical instructions are NOT, OR, XOR, and operations. So with these logical instruction, they have defined some more shift and rotate instruction. So logical shift instruction are logical shift right instruction, logical shift left instruction. Then the rotate instructions. So rotate arithmetic shift instructions. Arithmetic shift instructions are nothing but arithmetic rotate instruction with the left without carry, and rotate right without carry, then rotate right with carry, and rotate right without carry. Right? So some of these instructions which help us to do the arithmetic operation faster. Right? Whenever you are moving a content from left to right, so the content has to be moved along with the carry flag or without a carry flag. So when you are moving a content from a left, then there is a instruction where you are using a carry flag. So if it is having a carry flag, then with the carry flag the data will be moved out from the registers. Otherwise the content only rotate within a register. Right? With these instructions we have seen some of the encoding machine instructions. If you are using a machine instruction, one word machine instruction, then it requires more information to store in a memory location. Then it is only to store a assigned memory address, within a assigned memory address if it is overflowing. Then there is another word instruction, that is two word instruction, which help us to give additional memory location to store the data. Right? If you are using a more than 32-bit word information, then it uses another scheme, another word operation, that is three word operation, where you can store additional information with the given instruction data, operand with the third instruction. Right? The memory three operand instruction which has an syntax with opcode register R1, R2, then R3 with other information. You can also access the other information of a registers to do some operations. Right? So this we have seen in the previous class, and this is a first module. So now we'll see how the input output devices are communicating, how we can send information from one device to another device in a better way, and how fast the devices are communicated. Right? So today's lecture will see accessing of IO devices, how the devices are accessed, and how the data can be transferred from one device to another device. Right? So in this lecture, after studying this, student will have a better understanding of communicating through the input output device. So let us begin with the today's class, accessing of IO devices. So in basic processing unit, in the previous unit, what we studied, we have seen about a CPU organization and how CPU can execute the instructions stored in a memory, and how the instructions are fetched from the memory. So another feature of a CPU is it can exchange the data with other peripheral devices like keyboard, display unit, and other input output units. In the real-time application, the input to computer need not given in the form of instructions stored in a memory, right? It is not only in the form of instruction, it can be in form of a signals also. For example, in home appliances, banking systems, transportation, mechanical process industries, and other such areas, the input can be in different form, like a switch, sensor switches, digital camera, or a microphone. So when you are using these type of input data, therefore there may be an output which gives you a sound signal sent to a speaker, or a digital coded signal to run a motor, or to cause a robot to move from one end to another end, and so on. Thus, general purpose computer should have the ability to exchange the information with a wide range of devices in different environments. How the computer exchange the information we'll see with the help of a diagram, right? So here accessing of IO device which has a number of input output devices connected to the common bus, so look at the diagram. So accessing devices which has a number of input output devices where the processor, memory, input device 1 and input device 2 and input device n. So these all are connected to the common bus, single bus, in which the processor, memory, and all the IO devices are sharing the information through the common bus. So bus is used to transfer the information from the device to other device, right? This information we have studied in a first module, right? The bus which consists of three address lines, three set of lines. The first set of line is address line, data line, and control line. So what we are seeing, a single line which is connecting the devices and a processor and memory, which internally has three set of data lines, three set of lines. Those are address line which carries the address line, then data line which carries the holds the data line, then control line which controls the devices, right? Since there is a common bus, if more than one device is connected, enabled at a time, then the data on the bus will be ambiguous because all the devices are sending the information, right? So here it results in a problem called a bus contention. Bus contention. To avoid this bus contention condition, each input output devices is assigned a unique address. So who has sent the data to the bus will not be able to identify, because at a time, every time, all devices are sending information. To overcome this problem, which problem occurs? Bus contention problem occurs. So to overcome this, the IO devices have assigned a unique address. Unique address. How the people are having the address, based on the address will identify the person. Similarly, here also the devices can have a unique address. Only the addressed device can send and enabled to respond to the commands issued on the control lines. The processor then requests either a read or a write operation from the devices. Generally, there are two ways to deal with the input output devices. There are two ways to deal with an input output devices. The first case is called as a memory mapped IO. The memory mapped IO, and one more is an IO mapped IO. So now we'll see one by one what is memory mapped IO. What is memory mapped IO? Right? So here the IO devices which shares a common address space with the memory is called a memory mapped IO. The IO devices and the memory which share the same address space, is called a memory mapped IO. memory mapped IO, and the address will be recognized with the MSB bit of a address bus to differentiate between the IO device and an memory. What is MSB? MSB is most significant bit. So using MSB bit, so we need to identify whether it is a IO device or a memory device. IO or a memory. So based on the MSB, the address bus is used to differentiate IO and a memory. Since input output devices is also considered as a memory, and any data transfer instructions like a move, store, load can use to exchange the informations, right? In this scheme, in the memory mapped IO scheme, we normally associate with a buffer. We normally associate with a buffer with each input output device, right? So input output device has a buffer which is nothing but a data in and a data out buffer registers, right? So already we have seen in the first module what are the registers associated with the input output devices and a control signals, right? So I think everybody remembers the data structure, data buffers and buffer register and signals. So which are the buffer registers? Data in, data out. The control signals are S in and S out, right? So in this scheme, each buffer is accessed to send a data and store a data, right? So assume that if a data in is a input buffer associated with the keyboard, then the instruction move data in comma r naught, move data in comma r naught reads the data from the data in buffer and store it into the register r naught. Similarly, for the output devices, what the instruction is referred? Move data r naught comma data out. So because the data will be sent from the output processor to the register to the display device data output register, sent the content of register r0 to location data out buffer register, where data out is a output data buffer of a display unit or a printer. So number of input output devices in a system are not large, and this scheme results in inefficient utilization of large address space, inefficient use of a large address space, right? Large address space provided to the IO devices. So this instruction are same for both, some instructions are same for both IO devices and a memory. The programmer has to be cautious to decide whether the data transfer is with the input output devices or the memory devices, right? So since IO address space is large and it is decoding the circuitry is also very complex. Because of this failure, they have designed with a one more technique called IO mapped IO, where the memory and IO address space are different. Memory and IO devices memory space is different, but in memory mapped IO it is shared among the IO and memory devices, right? In this scheme, memory and IO address space are different, and also special instructions are used to transfer a data to and from input output devices. So the instructions are in and out, but in the previous scheme memory mapped IO, we are using a data in and data out buffer registers. The advantage of using a separate IO space is that IO devices deal with the fewer address lines. Devices only deal with the fewer address lines and in small decoder size and simple hardware. Simple hardware, right? So the IO, therefore only two instructions are to be used with the IO devices, which leads to a better programming environment. So separate address space does not necessity for a separate address line on the processor bus, on the processor bus. So the same address bus which is used with the memory is used for IO device also. IO device also. So that a special signal on the bus indicates whether the sent address is for the memory or the IO device or the IO devices. The user can access the devices connected to the processor using this scheme, so here it gives you more advantage than the memory mapped IO. So what they have done, so here by using these two scheme we can access the devices easily, right? We can access the devices easily. So to use this memory mapped IO and IO mapped IO, the interface is used to communicate with a number of devices. So this interface is called as an IO interface. In order to have an efficient organized data transfer, intermediary is required between the processor and an IO device, that is called as an IO input output interface. Input output interface. So this input output interface, which consists of all the logic required to ensure the proper operation as a format translator. If the designed interface can work on a different types of IO device, then it is called as a general purpose interface. In case if it is only to access a hard disk in a system, and we need a specialized interface to control and coordinate the data transfer, this then it is called as an IO interface. IO interface. So nowadays what we are getting, we are having a complete interface circuitry available for a single integrated circuit chip, that is IC. We have a single interface circuitry for a IC, integrated chip. So for this chip there are some examples. You can see PPI. PPI is nothing but a peripheral interface between a devices. So the chip is 8255. 8255 is used for PPI. Then PPI is used to convert a ADC to DAC. What is ADC? ADC is analog digital converter and digital analog converter. Then one more IC is 8275. 8275 used for a circuit controller. Then 8251 is for unisource circuit controller, that is USART. So the basic functional diagram of IO interface are designed with this diagram. So in the diagram, the basic functional blocks of IO interfaces are address decoder, the circuit control, and a data status and register, data and status registers. So already we know the three bus lines. So which are the bus line? Address line, data line and control line. The IO interface which uses the circuit which consists of three IO interfaces. One is address decoder is required to decode the address of the device. Then the control circuit which controls the devices, and data and status register which transfer the actual data which is used to transfer from one device to another device. In addition with this, depending on application, the functionality can be increased by incorporating a small ROM and RAM, a timer in a interrupt logic. The figure, this diagram indicates a simple input-output interface to connect an input devices, I/O devices to the bus. I/O devices to the bus. See here, input device which connecting the bus and with the I/O interface. This interface is required to communicate from the device to the bus. The address decoder, we'll see one by one what are the circuit diagram indicating. In the first one, in I/O interface, there are three I/O interface, three functional blocks. The first functional block, the address decoder, which decodes the address sent on the bus so that it enables the input devices. See the arrow mark here, the bus address line which sends the address of the device, and it decodes the address and it sends the data to the input devices. Then the data register holds a data being transferred to or from the processor. See the arrow line from data lines to data and status register. There is both the way bi-directional, because it can send a data, read a data, or write a data. Then the status signal, status register, which contains a flags to indicate the conditions like a buffer is full or a buffer is empty. So whenever the communication starts, so in that case the data will be sent to the devices. How the data can be transferred from a device to the another device. So whether the data registers are empty or it is full. So those status signals, status of a buffer registers can be stored in a status register. The status registers are nothing but an S in and S out flag registers, which are used by the processors to verify the status of the device. Status of the device. The speed of operation of a processor and I/O devices differ. See here we are communicating with the I/O devices and a processor. So the speed obviously varies, right? Greatly it varies from a device to the processor. So that the I/O devices are manually operated in many cases. There may not be a synchronization between the CPU operations and an I/O operations with reference to the CPU clock. Because of the speed variation from the device to the processor, the data communication with the CPU and I/O operation does not sync, right? To make a cater to the different needs of I/O operation, there are three mechanisms have been developed for interfacing the input-output devices. Interfacing input-output devices, right? So we'll see the mechanism. The mechanisms are program-controlled I/O, the interrupt I/O, and an direct memory access. Direct memory access. So this is an explanation regarding with the diagram. So I/O devices which are connected to the bus using the I/O interface circuit, which consists of a address decoder, control circuit, and a data status registers. So we have seen what data address decoder will do and the data registers, then the status registers, right? So there is a main difference between a speed. So see the rate of a transfer to and from I/O devices is slow than the speed of a processor. To create a synchronization between these these system, they have used a mechanism. So that mechanism is called a program controlled I/O and the interrupt I/O and a direct memory access. Direct memory access. So what is a program controlled I/O? So program controlled I/O, where the processor repeatedly monitor the status flag to achieve the necessary synchronization. because whenever the processor sending a data from the processor to the input output device, the status flag play a important role which gives the processor whether the devices are ready to accept the data or transfer the data. Based on a SIN and SOUT flag register, SIN and SOUT flag register, the data can be transferred between the IO devices and a processor a processor. So here the sync will be done with the help of a program controlled IO technology. In program controlled IO technology, the synchronization can be done with the help of a processor pool devices. Processor pool. So where the devices are waiting for the data, waiting for the queue to access the data from the devices, then those will get a chance to access the data effectively with the sync. So the other technology have been developed so that the use of a processor is efficiently organized. So we have seen when the data is transferred from a device, input device to the output device, then the data has to be first read from the keyboard, then it will send to the data in register. Once the data is placed in a data in buffer register, then the data can be the status flag SIN is set to 1. Based on a status flag SIN, the processor reads the data and then it is sent to the processor, and from processor it is sent to a data out register where the display device can display the data. So when we are using SIN and SOUT in buffer status flag, one more register, that is status flags, are used as an display interrupt request and a interrupt request signals. Keyboard interrupt signals. So these signal which sends a data to the signal to the display unit as well as a keyboard unit, output unit and a input unit. Right? With the help of these status flags, the data can be transferred synchronously with the processor and an IO device. The processor pool is nothing but the device which are waiting for the processor to read a data from the devices or write a data from the device. Right? So there is another two mechanism which is used for synchronizing a data transfer between the processor and a memory, or interrupt input IO and a direct memory access, and it is also called as an hardware controlled IO. So three technologies are designed. So first technology is program controlled IO, then the interrupt IO, then the third one is hardware controlled IO. It is also called direct memory access. So in the next class, in the next lecture, we'll see how the interrupt IO and direct memory access are designed to communicate with the different input output devices. Right? With this, I conclude. So here you should get to know the levels of Bloom's taxonomy. What you have learned, where you will stand after learning this. Whether the content is in level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5 and level 6. Right? These are helpful to design a levels of a Bloom taxonomy. So level 1 is remembering. So what you are doing with this accessing of IO devices, you will remember the things and you will understand, then you will apply it for designing of a memory architecture. Right? So the topic what we have covered today is in a process of understanding. So you are in a level 2. Level 2. So with this I conclude. So today we covered accessing devices, how the devices are accessed, how the input output devices are communicating with the processor, and here the communication can be done with the help of a input output interface. The input output interface which can have two methods to communicate: the memory mapped IO and an IO mapped IO. There is a main difference between memory mapped IO and IO mapped IO is memory mapped IO, which shares the address space with the memory and and the IO device. But in IO mapped IO, the memory is not shared. And the main disadvantage of memory mapped IO is the larger memory is simply wasted, and IO devices which not have any complex circuitry to decode it. Right? So in IO mapped IO, the complex decoder can be reduced to a simple hardware and a small decoder. With this technology, they have designed the IO interface to communicate with the input-output devices. There are three main IO interfaces with technologies. One is a program-controlled IO and the interrupt IO, and the third one is hardware-controlled IO or a direct memory access. The IO interface, which has a circuit diagram where there are three functional block is used: address decoder, control circuit, then data and status register. The address decoder, which decodes the address of the IO devices, then the control circuit, which controls the transfer of data from one device to another device, then the data and status register, which will give you how the data will be stored and how the data will be transferred from the devices using the SIN and SOUT status flags. So you can also refer the textbook Karl Hamcher 5th edition, chapter 4, section 4.1 and the page number 203 to 204. You can also refer the NPTEL courses. Thank you.